This is macOS Ken.
The App Store messaging war, news around new Apple Watches, and several smallish updates. It's Friday, the 25th of September, 2020. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Sunbasket. Get $35 off your order using promo code macOSKen at sunbasket.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Not sure you'd call Apple's latest address on the App Store a charm offensive, but the company is making a public-facing case for why the App Store and the way it's run are swell. Mac Rumor says Apple has overhauled its About the App Store and developing for the App Store web pages to focus on several key areas, including discovery, privacy and security, trust and safety, hardware and software, and downloading with confidence. Part of the case Apple makes to consumers, the App Store is more than just a storefront. It's an innovative destination focused on bringing you amazing experiences. And a big part of those experiences is ensuring that the apps we offer are held to the highest standards for privacy, security, and content. Because we offer nearly 2 million apps, and we want you to feel good about using every single one of them. Well, I don't have time to use 2 million apps. Oh, I get it. Sorry. Lots of stats thrown into the mix. Over 100,000 apps or updates are submitted and reviewed every week. Last year, Apple rejected over 150,000 apps for privacy guideline violations. This year, Apple has removed over 60 million app reviews that it thought were spam, and the company has rejected more than 1 million apps over an unknown amount of time for illegal, unsafe, harmful, or objectionable content. While that info is for consumers, you could argue that all of it is for developers as well. Then there's the stuff that is decidedly and specifically for developers. According to Mac Rumors, the new developers page says that 92% of iPhones issued in the last 4 years run iOS 13, and almost 90% of apps are reviewed within 24 hours. The page also declares that Apple has paid out over $155 billion with a B dollars to developers since 2008, and over 500 million people visit the App Store each week. 85% of apps are reportedly free, and these developers pay nothing to Apple. Over 50% of app downloads come from outside the developer's home country. In short, Apple likes the way things are, and it thinks everybody else should too. Of course, not everyone does, but we'll get to that. First, some added transparency from Apple. A piece from Apple Insider says the company has come clear on what it takes as a video player app to pay a 15% commission rather than the 30% paid by most applications. I can tell you what the rules are, but are you a streaming video service? The point is there are rules, and everyone can finally see them. And a lot of services are already in on the action. According to Apple Insider, as of this fall, over 130 premium subscription video entertainment providers around the world have signed on to participate in this program, such as Amazon Prime Video, Binge, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, Disney+, Globo, and the list goes on and on. Now, I mentioned that not everybody in the App Store is happy with the App Store. TechCrunch brings us news of the Coalition for App Fairness. Just a bunch of scrappy developers working late into the night in their basements on tiny apps. Developers you probably never heard of, like Epic Games, Deezer, Basecamp, Tile, Spotify, and others. According to TechCrunch, the new organization formalizes efforts the companies already have underway that focus on either forcing App Store providers to change their policies or ultimately forcing the App Stores into regulation. Among the complaints listed on the coalition's website is the 30% commission structure employed by both Apple and Google, They also take aim at the inability to get apps onto iPhone and iPad, except through the App Store. Hey, maybe they should read Apple's updated About the App Store and Developing for the App Store pages. Writing to the App Store's defense this week, the Bloomberg editorial board. Its message: Apple's App Store isn't evil. Mac Daily News had the business types making the case. First, they take down Epic Games, calling Epic's violating in-app purchase rules in Fortnite for iOS something of a stunt. Acknowledging the Coalition for App Fairness, an alliance set to protest the rules, the Bloomberg editorial board argues this framing has things backward. The App Store has in fact been hugely useful for consumers, stimulated competition, and, not least, offered immense benefits to smaller companies. After making the case for the consumer, ease of use, trust, things like that, the board addresses coalition concerns, saying it's true that 30% sounds like a hefty fee, but it's entirely in line with what other platforms and marketplaces charge for distributing digital content to their users. Fees for software sales at brick-and-mortar shops frequently exceeded 60% before the iPhone came along, and the vast majority of developers pay nothing at all. Only those that acquire customers or deliver goods and services through the app are subject to the fee. News for new buyers of Apple Watch. First, if you're planning to use family setup for your brood, blood oxygen monitoring is not for everyone. Mac Rumors says it is literally not for anybody under 18. In fact, the piece says the app will refuse to launch if it detects that the user's birth date and the health app is less than 18 years ago. Okay, no blood oxygen reading for the kids. That's fine. The thing is, it doesn't work for Nana and Papa either. Quoting the report again, the blood oxygen app will be automatically disabled if you set up an unpaired Apple Watch Series 6 using Family Setup, regardless of the intended user's age. So if you're worried about Mima's blood oxygen, she'll either need to set up an Apple Watch Series 6 on her own iPhone running iOS 14, or you'll need a standalone device. Not that keeping more and more far in Family Setup is without merit. I mean, you still get to monitor fall detection, their comings and goings, and they can still send out an SOS. Also, the watch's blood oxygen thing may not be that big a thing. Quoting Mac Rumors one more time, besides being a health-related feature, Apple has not explained why the blood oxygen app is not available on an Apple Watch configured using Family Setup, but the company has been eager to stress that the blood oxygen monitoring on Apple Watch is not intended for medical use, including self-diagnosis or consultation with a doctor. Indeed, Apple states that it is only designed for general fitness and wellness purposes, which leaves its usefulness quite open to interpretation. It almost sounds like Apple doesn't want to be on the hook with a first-generation device should something go wrong. And seriously, who could blame them? But this other Apple Watch news will mean nothing to anybody except it's a thing that's happening, or not happening depending on how you look at it. Remember how Apple was including 5-watt power adapters with Apple Watch Edition and Apple Watch Hermès despite removing the wall wart from the lower-priced chronometers? Well, now nobody gets one. Another piece from Mac Rumors says Apple has pulled the doodad from both of the higher-priced devices. The piece says Apple has once again gone with green messaging on the removal. According to Mac Rumors, Apple's site for the device says, as part of our effort to meet our environmental goals, Apple Watch does not include a power adapter. Please use your existing power adapter or add a new one before you check out. More news in a moment, but first a word from Sunbasket, delivering oven-ready meals that are fast, fresh, and delicious. Work from home doesn't necessarily mean more time for home-type stuff. Quite the contrary. A recent study from Harvard and NYU shows people working close to an hour longer per day since they stopped going physically to work. Want to spend an hour cooking after an extra hour of work every day? Why not try Sunbasket's fresh and delicious meals instead? Great meals like southwestern turkey and sweet potato skillet, cauliflower macaroni and cheese, and more. Sunbasket delivers fresh and ready meals made with organic fresh produce, sustainable seafood, and meats that are free of antibiotics, hormones, and steroids. Also, they're delicious. Everything I've had from Sunbasket has been fantastic. And the fresh and ready meals are easy, ready to heat in the oven or microwave, which means dinner could be ready in as little as 6 minutes. Fast, delicious, and a little less to try it out. Right now, Sunbasket is offering $35 off your order when you go right now to sunbasket.com/macOSKen and enter promo code macOSKen at checkout. That's sunbasket.com/macOSKen and enter promo code macOSKen at checkout for $35 off your order. Sunbasket.com/macOSKen and enter promo code macOSKen. And a big thanks to Sunbasket for sponsoring today's show. A slew of smallish updates from Apple on Thursday. iDownload blog says Apple has released iOS 14.0.1, fixing one of the release's earliest big bugs. A much-anticipated feature for some was the ability to change the default mail client and web browser from Apple's offerings to solutions from other companies. That worked like a charm until users rebooted their phones. Last week it was reported that doing that set devices back to Apple's original solutions rather than the new ones chosen by users. iOS 14.0.1 fixes that, but wait, there's more. Apple's notes say the update addresses an issue that could prevent camera previews from displaying on iPhone 7 and iPhone 7 Plus, fixes an issue that could prevent your iPhone from connecting to Wi-Fi networks, resolves an issue that could prevent sending email with some mail providers, and addresses an issue that could prevent images from appearing in the News widget. Walking in rhythm with iOS is iPadOS 14.0.1. The piece from iMovie says it addresses the same faulty default issue as the iOS update. Sliding to the wrist, another piece from iMovie says Apple on Thursday released watchOS 7.0.1. Not a lot of data on this one. Apple's release info says watchOS 7.0.1 contains improvements and bug fixes, including fixing an issue where some payment cards and wallet were disabled for some users. Now, as little as we know about the watchOS update, even less is said about tvOS 14.0.1. Basically, all iMovie has to say about that is that it's been released, offering a set of unidentified bug fixes and performance improvements. Going a bit more heavy-duty, a piece from iDownload blog says Apple has released macOS Catalina 10.15.7. Apple's got more to say about this one. Reading its release notes, the company says the Catalina update resolves an issue where macOS would not automatically connect to Wi-Fi networks, fixes an issue that could prevent files syncing through iCloud Drive, and addresses a graphic issue that may occur on iMac Retina 5K 27-inch 2020 with Radeon Pro 5700 XT. 4 security fixes for this one as well, dealing with Image I/O, Mail, Model I/O, and Sandbox. And finally, rounding out the update parade, releases for some things visual to make them less abysmal. Another piece from my download blog says Apple released bug-fixing updates for iMovie on Thursday, as well as for Final Cut Pro 10 and its components, Motion, and Compressor. Lots of fixes for the Pro software that won't mean much to most of us. For iMovie, the update fixes an issue that made it impossible to share 4K or HD videos. You know, I actually noticed that problem when I was doing In a Few Minutes as a video thing. I thought I had done something wrong. Go figure. Of course, all of these updates are free for existing users. Each is available in the usual way. Computers and tablets made by Apple are crushing it in consumer satisfaction in the States. Earlier this week, Mac Daily News ran new numbers from the American Customer Satisfaction Index Household Appliance and Electronics Report. Looking at the computer category as a whole, people are happier this year than last. Satisfaction with computers averages out to a score of 78 out of a possible 100. People are happiest with desktops, giving them a score of 80. Tablets get a score of 78, while laptops are lowest with a score of 77. Honing in on Apple, its hardware is on top with a score of 82 out of 100. Samsung's not far behind with a score of 81. Acer and Amazon are tied for third, each with a score of 78. Every other manufacturer mentioned was below the general computer satisfaction score of 78. Running down the rest of the list, Asus, HP, and Dell were at 77, Lenovo got a score of 76, and Toshiba got a score of 75. Though overall computer satisfaction numbers haven't moved a lot in the past decade, ACSI thinks computer makers should pay closer attention in #these uncertain times. David Van Amberg, managing director at ACSI, was quoted in the piece as saying, "COVID-19 opened customers' eyes to what they were missing. Part of the PC sales revival stems from users upgrading their older machines. As customers' use of PCs increases, they're likely to be even more critical of their devices. PC manufacturers would do well to implement customer feedback to keep satisfaction high and build loyalty." Something new to watch this weekend on Apple TV Plus. As we heard yesterday, the series Tehran has landed on Apple's streaming service. Not for the kids, this one. It sails in with a TVMA rating. The first 3 episodes are up for viewing now on Apple TV Plus. Coming in a couple of weeks, for the kids, the second season of Ghostwriter. A reboot of a 1990s kids show of the same name. Apple describes the show saying, "When a ghost haunts a neighborhood bookstore and starts releasing fictional characters into the real world, 4 kids must team up to solve an exciting mystery surrounding the ghost's unfinished business." iDownload blog says season 2 of the show is set to start on the 9th of October, a scant 2 weeks from today. If you want to see what's in store this time around, the Cupertino streamer has posted a trailer for the second season on YouTube. And finally today, while it may not be easy being green, it's not without recognition. Apple Insider says its Cupertino namesake has been crowned the best green catalyst in the RE100 Leadership Awards for its commitment to pushing supply chain partners toward carbon neutrality. RE in this case stands for Renewable Electricity. Made up of, you guessed it, 100 organizations, the RE100 has committed to making the move to 100% renewable electricity. This week, they've given awards to businesses using their influence to accelerate the clean energy transition. Of course, Apple itself is already carbon neutral in both its corporate and retail operations. However, earlier this year, Apple pledged to have its partners go carbon neutral by 2030. For that, Apple got the award for Best Green Catalyst. Coming up in a few minutes, favorite color, worst job, worst meal. It's Wheel of Stuff time. Plus, I goad Shelley into giving Ted Lasso another shot. That is parallel host Shelley Brisbane spinning the Wheel of Stuff in a few minutes. Listen wherever you get podcasts or on YouTube, youtube.com/KenRay. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Sunbasket. Get $35 off your order using promo code macOSKen at sunbasket.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macOSKen.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.